this is the stirring the pot question I have. Does this come out of the feeling that, because this came up during the election, the feeling like the city didn't do enough to voice their opposition to Dixie State going to Utah Tech, and this is a way of saying, you know, hey, we it wasn't that we were against the heritage of the word Dixie or, you know, that conversation, and this is a way of saying we're proud of that heritage, and we want it to be.
I think part of it is I've said on the radio before when that was all going down, the name change at the university, you know, I was against it. I wrote every single senator and representative at the state. Every single one of them, I sent them an email. And I only heard back from like 3. And one was Walt Brooks, my own, which was good, and explained to him why it meant what it meant to me. I have 3 great-great-great-grandparents who came here, one to Santa Clara and the other at the encampment mall. That's where they stayed. And their names are on the monument down there. But and it took us so long to get the Sugarloaf that federal historic status. And the hoops you have to jump through, because you have to give the good and the bad. Yeah. And so back in the early 80s, and I don't remember this because I was a kid and probably not even paying attention, but we had, what was it called then? But they had a huge Confederate flag all the way across the boulevard. And it kind of went along with the theme, like an antebellum theme, you know, and we had to put that in the documentation that, yeah, there was some minstrel shows, there was some blackface, there was this and that, but we're not racist people. This is what Dixie means to us. Yeah. And this is what the early pioneers thought it meant. Yeah. And so you send in tons of documentation and it gets state approval, and then it goes to the feds. And so the feds finally approved it. And same as the D on the Hill. Yeah. So, and we wanted to do that to make sure that, I don't know, in 20 years, a new mayor and council just don't say, hey, blast that off of there.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think in doing my own research as to like the history of the word Dixie, where it came from, it does seem like there was a period of time in which it was used in its negative connotation. Right. But before that, for 50, 60 years, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form in that way. But over this, it was almost like a 15, 20-year period. It was like there was this, it was like a cultural movement towards, not the best version of who Southern Utah is. And then it quickly changed. The pendulums quickly swung away from that, pretty much in the 90s. It swung completely the opposite direction. And so I think of, as we look back in history, we don't want to forget that history, right? We gotta recognize, where things might have gone wrong, and how do we redeem ourselves from those moments when things don't go the right way. And so that's why I like this move towards the Dixie Days and celebrating the heritage, because we don't need to sweep it under the rug.
We don't need to be embarrassed by it. And that's one thing, that the interpretive trail that we're going to do up to the Sugarloaf.
Do you have to do an interpretive dance as you go along the trail?
No, but it's going to be so cool. You'll have QR codes, and that it'll bring up like a certain family and what their contribution was to Dixie.
Oh, nice.
Or
that's cool.
If you have visitors and they're like, why is this rock called Dixie? Well, this is the Sugarloaf because it looked like a sugarloaf in the old at that time. And
because it was shipped from India,
the Dixie Cotton Mission, and it'll just have all those explanations. And like I said, at the State of the City, Steve Snow and Lyman Hafen, you can't get 2 more better historians that know every detail and story there is to know about this area. And so they've worked so hard. I was assigned with that task when I was on the council, and then when I became the mayor, I asked Greg MacArthur and Natalie Larson to do it. And so Natalie's been doing it and meeting with Lyman and Steve. And then the county even kicked in money because they thought it was such a good idea.
Yeah.
So.
It's an interesting way of celebrating it. You know, the street festivals and stuff, our weather, you know, getting outside and meeting with our neighbors, it fits in. So that'll be
great timing.
It's great timing.
For
September,
sure.
the rodeo. I've heard a lot of people that are like professional bull riders and stuff. They don't like that it's an amateur rodeo, right? Like
it's a PRCA rodeo.
It's a PRCA. Okay, there was somebody was telling me that you had to be, or maybe it was you could only be a professional and ride in it. You couldn't. They don't ever have any amateur ones.
No.
And that's what it was. And they wanted to be able, because it's so unique, like being right in the center of town and how many people can fit in the stadium. And it's an outdoor rodeo where a lot of those professional rodeos are inside these days, right? So it'll be cool to add some stands to that and really make it a fun event during that
Shout out to the Geobon.
Shout out to the Geobon.
Because you will not have cement bleachers in there anymore.
Yeah.
Which will be fabulous.
It will be much nicer. It will be much nicer.
And we can do more things in there.
We can. We can hold more events. Maybe do an amateur rodeo in there one time.
Go ahead.
They have a spring rodeo that somebody from Stephen Wade does. And I don't know if it's I know it's not affiliated with the PRCA, but I don't know if it's affiliated with somebody else. But
does the Lions Club own the Dixie Sun Bowl?
No, the city does.
The city does specifically. Okay, they're just affiliate. They kind of help facilitate it.
Yeah, and
so that we got lots of Parks and Rec stuff going on. I'm gonna skip past that because that's not as fun, at least for me. I'm not as really interested in
I love it.
There's some
really
cool stuff. There's cool like
Along with that
pickleball
is
courts and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the parks, the Sun Bowl for me. I grew up playing football there in 7th and 8th grade, and I feel like I haven't been to anything there except for the rodeo since then. Like legitimately.
When I was in high school, that's where we played all of our high school games.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's such a historic stadium, and I'm a really big sports guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's some really cool things that could happen in the Sun Bowl if we do remove the dirt and put the concrete down, so we can bring in the dirt, but then remove it so that we could have all types of different sports in there, right? I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, pickleball tournaments.
Pickleball,
they have a little stadium. They have like the little stadium they did out in Little Valley. That's like a championship
the expansion
level pickleball court for all those.
The soccer fields.
Largest pickleball stadium in
What do they
Utah
call
now.
what do they call people that are like heavy into pickleball?
Pickleballers.
Just pickleballers.
Like
Sure.
There's not a cool like.
I just got into it.
You just got into it?
I'm 3 months
Really?
in, and I'm
He's 3 months in.
You're hooked.
I'm so hooked.
He's hooked.
It's the funnest game.
Well,
I just
anybody
played
can
yesterday
play
for
it.
an hour and a half.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah,
is
everyone
you
can
see
play it.
little kids to old people.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about golf too. And that I feel like we've just nailed it on the head with both golf and pickleball as part of like the blood of St. George now, because they're two sports that literally anybody could go and play. The thing about pickleball is it's even easier for people to get into, because golf is a very, very difficult game, and most people just get frustrated and end up stopping. Pickleball, I mean, it's really like in between tennis and ping pong, and anybody can be somewhat competitive.
Yeah, you don't
right?
have to be running around the court
No,
and stuff,
not like
right?
tennis.
Especially, yeah, it's definitely a fun game, and we've done a good job of building up a big following here, but giving them the resources to do it. Those courts are full all the time.
Even in the summer.
It's 5 a.m., 6 a.m. You can't find
sun
a court.
goes down too. It fills back up.
I talked to builders, and a lot of people, one of their very first questions when they're building like kind of a bigger house, like custom homes, on like some of these bigger lots, and one of the very first questions is, can the backyard fit a pickleball court?
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for there to be like a noise ordinance that comes down, because it's like the
Listen,
clink, clink.
Listen, they're starting to make balls that don't make sound.
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
They are.
And they
because I want it
feel
in my
the same.
backyard.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Maybe it's the paddle. Is it the paddle or is it the ball?
I heard it's the ball.
I mean, I guess it's the
But,
chicken and the egg.
You know, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
For real though.
The biggest question I got on the state of the city, inundated Macrae.
Was what?
The film studio.
Yes.
The film studio.
Well, yeah, it's
Gotta
because
be.
they put it on
Entertainment
KSL, and then they
tonight.
called me an influencer, and I'm like, oh,
You
my
are an
God.
influencer.
You are an influencer.
That's pretty much all you are.
Embrace it. Entertainment Tonight, ET Online,
Really?
CNN. They're
As if we weren't on the map already.
right.
Wow.
People Magazine.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just referred them all to Joyce Kelly.
Nice.
You're
That's
like,
great.
You don't want to talk to me.
I'm like, no, we just announced it. It's not true. But
Is that true?
We just wanted,
That's
the clicks.
confirm it, and then so let me.
I had a ton of people ask about that too.
I-
It was great timing. I'm glad that it worked out.
I
the
even
way
got
that-
emails, people wanting to know how they could work there.
Oh yeah, I've had.
I don't know.
I know. I've had the same.
Cover
I had a-
I'm sure they'll
Burgess.
have an ad. Yeah, I'm sure they'll have some ad of hiring, right? But
Today the trailer drops.
Macrae.
Yeah.
Macrae, just remember, you signed up for this.
you did.
You consciously made
I
this
just
choice.
hate the
Yeah.
word. I don't like that word, but it is what it is.